Chapter 4. New Directions. So there I was, married, working at Benjamin Small, and in my 4th year of the CA program at McGill. At the end of that year, I failed an auditing exam. At first, it seemed like a serious setback. After all, I had spent 4 years focused on and committed to becoming an accountant. However, it did make me take a hard look at my future. After much thought, I again came face to face with the fact that school had never been easy for me, and that university studies were especially difficult. It would be many years before I learned that I had always struggled with a learning disability. Besides, I had never really been happy in accounting. I was not stimulated by my work, and I wasn't satisfied. I read my failing the exam as a very clear message. A career in accounting is not for me, and so I decided to get out of accounting. I discussed my decision with Shirley, and she gave me her full support. I credit my guardian angel for having me fail that exam and redirecting me to another career that would prove much more suitable for me. Had I been able to do better and pass that exam, I probably would have kept struggling and plugging away, and eventually I would have become a chartered accountant. I know I didn't have the temperament or personality to be a good accountant, and if I had stayed in accounting, I would never have felt fulfilled. I made the decision to leave accounting with no idea of what I would do next. I wrote to my father and told him that I was leaving accounting. He was understandably disappointed and wrote back immediately saying, "Don't quit. Rewrite the exam and stay with it." I told him this is not about quitting. Accounting is just not for me. I have gained a lot of experience in the last 4 years, and I will find something else, something that is more appropriate for me. And so I gave my notice to Benjamin Small and Company and left McGill. At Benjamin Small, I had been part of the auditing team for a lingerie manufacturing company, and when I left the firm, I was offered and accepted a job as controller of that company. After a couple of months in my new job, it became clear that I was totally out of my league, and eventually I had to leave. I don't remember if I quit or if I was fired, but in any case, thankfully, I was not successful in that job. Again, had I been more able and succeeded in that position, I would have wasted another 4 years or maybe even been stuck in that job forever, and I would never have had the opportunity to reach my full potential. Once again, my guardian angel was looking out for me, directing me away from a dead end and towards exploring new possibilities. Surely, I would like to open a store. I was unemployed for 3 months after I left that company. I had a few job interviews, but nothing materialized from them. I didn't know what to do with myself. After 3 months of frustration, wandering around doing nothing, I went with Shirley into a ladies' wear store called Mays in the Norgate Shopping Center. While I waited for Shirley to try something on, I talked with the owner of the store, Ernie Sakaransky, and somehow our conversation triggered an idea. When we left the store, I said, "You know what, Shirley? I think that's what I would like to do. I would like to open a store." Over the next few days, we explored that possibility at length, and the more we talked about it, the more the idea appealed to us. It is ironic that my father was a storekeeper in Barbados and my Uncle John was a storekeeper in Montreal, but my becoming a storekeeper had never occurred to me until my visit to Mays that day. There was a new strip of retail stores under construction on Van Horn Avenue near Victoria Avenue, 3 blocks from where we lived. I decided to explore the possibility of renting one of those stores. I went over to the site and spoke to the owner, Mr. Dabrowski. Our conversation went something like this. "Mr. Dabrowski, I would like to rent one of your stores." What kind of store are you planning to open? I don't know. I can't rent you a store until I know what kind of store you intend to open. Oh, okay, so I'll open a toy store. I'm afraid we already have a toy store. Okay, then I'll open a children's wear store. Sorry, we already have a children's wear store. So what don't you have? We don't have ladies' wear. So I'll open a ladies' wear store. All right. How many square feet do you need? I don't know. How many square feet would be appropriate for a ladies' wear store? Well, I have a space of 1,500 square feet available. Okay, I'd like to lease it. Fine, but first I need to know who you are and what assets you have. I have 2,500 in savings and I would like to go into business. I'm sorry, I can't give you a lease because you don't have enough assets to guarantee the lease, but I'll rent you a store for $250 a month, and as long as you pay the rent, you can have it. Okay, I'll take it. Very sophisticated negotiations and decision making. Given our toy store, children's wear, ladies' wear conversation, I'm sure Mr. Dabrowski didn't expect me to be in business for very long. I went back and told Shirley what had happened, and that evening we met and shook hands on the deal with Mr. Dabrowski. We named the store Shirley's Teens to Maternity. A few years later, we changed the name to Shirley K Fashions. A couple of days after we agreed to rent the store, I received a job offer from a leading manufacturer of ladies' coats and sportswear, which seemed like a good opportunity for me. I told Shirley about it when she came home from work and asked what she thought I should do. Without hesitation, she answered, "You decided to go into business. I think you should stick with your decision." So the matter was settled. And that was that. I was 22 years old, starry-eyed, full of hope, and I was going into business, inexperienced, with very little money, and totally ignorant of the pitfalls ahead of me. A condition of the agreement with Mr. Dabrowski was that the store would be ready in a month and that I would start paying rent then. So reality set in. What do I do now? Then I remembered my conversation with Ernie Sakaransky. I went to see him and told him I had rented premises for a ladies' wear store in another neighborhood, that I had to move in and open in a month's time, and that I didn't know what to do next. I asked him for help. "You have to fixture and furnish your store," he said, "and you should put an ad in the paper and hire somebody to help and work with you, somebody who has some experience in ladies' wear." He gave me the name of Mr. Siklas, a store fixture contractor. I met with Mr. Siklas the following day and told him that I needed fixtures for a ladies' wear store I was opening in a month's time. Our conversation went something like this. "All right, Mr. Konigsberg, what kind of clothing are you going to carry in your store?" "I don't know." "But I can't fixture the store until I know what kind of merchandise you'll be selling. Do you need shelving, storage units, racks for hanging garments, etc.? I have to know what kind of merchandise you'll be carrying." "I don't know." He then took a different tact. "Do you think you'll be carrying dresses?" "Yes, I guess so." "Will you be carrying sweaters?" "I guess so." "Do you think you'll be carrying slacks?" "I guess so." Every time he asked me a question, my answer was, "I guess so." Anyways, after a few minutes of this, he made some assumptions about what I might need, and he went away and priced out the job at $2,500. He had been in business for several years, so I'm sure it was obvious to him that I didn't know what I was doing. He could have stopped me in my tracks right there, but he didn't. Instead, he took a chance on me. He did the job, and he offered me terms I could handle, 2 years of monthly payments. At that point, I was really committed. I had a store, rent to pay, and obligations to a contractor. Meanwhile, nobody had answered my ads for help. Back to Ernie. I told him what I had done about fixturing the store and that nobody had answered my ad. "What do I do now?" I asked. He said, "Well, this is a market week and all the ladies' wear manufacturers are showing their new lines at the Mount Royal Hotel. Why don't you go and buy?" "What do you mean, go and buy? I don't know what to buy." And Ernie said, "So go down to the Mount Royal, visit the showrooms, ask the salespeople to help you, and buy the merchandise you think you would like to sell in your store." When Shirley came home from work that evening, I said to her, "You have to come buying with me. I can't buy ladies' clothing by myself." She said, "Okay, but I have a job, so I can only go with you at night." So we went buying in the evening. Learning the business. We knew nothing about business in general and even less about ladies' wear retailing. Anyway, Shirley and I went to the Mount Royal Hotel in the evening to buy. The first supplier we saw was Title Dress from Toronto. They made expensive cocktail dresses. We asked their sales rep if we could see their line. He didn't know who we were, but he was very polite and asked us to sit down. He then started parading beautiful models in front of us, wearing the new line of Title dresses. I had looked at women before, but until that moment, I never really looked at what they wore. I will always remember the first model. She came out in a beautiful strapless bustier dress with a royal blue velvet top and a big peau de soie skirt with crinolines. She was gorgeous, and so was the dress. I looked at everything the models wore with my eyes popping out of my head. Shirley was sitting beside me, and she too was very taken with the garments. We were then given an order pad and asked to pick out the styles we wanted to order. We picked the styles we wanted, and we saw that each style came in 5 sizes and 3 colors, so we wrote 15 of each style. The salesman looked at our order and asked how many stores we had. "Just one, which is opening in a few weeks," I replied. "Do you have any experience in ladies' wear retailing?" he asked. "No," I answered. Then he said, "Well, this is not the way to buy expensive dresses. What you should do is take a size 5 in one color, skip a size, and take a size 9 in another color, and a 13 in the third color. That way, with 3 dresses, you can show all 3 colors and have a range of sizes for your customers to try on. Then you take special orders. That's how you buy these dresses." So we ordered 3 of each, perhaps 7 styles. We thanked him for the lesson, left him with the order. For the record, 3 years later, all 3 of that first style, the blue velvet bustier, ended up on a $5 sales rack. We did not sell even one of them. We then went across the hall to a company called Michael London. Mr. Miller, the owner of Michael London, made blouses that sold for $2.98. He showed us his new line. Now, after our Title dress lesson, we thought we knew how to order. So when he gave us an order pad, we picked out the styles we liked, and we wrote pink in size 5, blue in size 9, and green in size 13, and other styles in alternate sizes. As we were writing out our order, Mr. Miller asked, "Do you have any experience in this business?" "Well, we just left an order with Title dress next door, and he told us this is how we should write our orders," was our reply. Then, in a very patronizing way, Mr. Miller said, "That's the way you buy Title dresses, but it's not the way you buy $2.98 blouses. For For these blouses, you need to buy a dozen of a style. So that's what we did. We wrote a dozen per style. While we were doing this, Shirley looked up at him and saw him smirking. "You're not going to ship us this order, are you?" she asked. "You see that we don't know what we are doing. Instead of sitting there smirking at us and then tearing up our order after we leave, you could help us and maybe we could become a good customer." He was clearly taken aback. After a brief silence, he said, "Forget writing an order. I'll send you the blouses you should have." Which he did. We developed a rapport with Mr. Miller, and over the years we did a lot of business together. That evening was the beginning of our business education, two young kids with so much to learn. When the time came to open the store, I had not received even one response to my ads for sales help. In the meantime, I was working all day receiving merchandise and getting the store ready. At night, Shirley and I worked together, ticketing and steaming the merchandise and generally getting everything ready for opening. We had no staff, no help. This went on for a few days, then I said to Shirley, "I guess you're going to have to quit your job and come and work in the store." She agreed and gave her employer notice the next day, but she couldn't just walk away. She was the office manager, and she had to train someone to take over her job. We actually opened the store on October 21st, 1957. We were very proud and excited. Shirley worked in the store during the day and for her previous employer at night while she trained a replacement for her old job. We were such novices. We didn't know the first thing about running a retail business. We knew nothing about budgeting or how much to buy. We had no plan, we just bought. What little bit of knowledge I thought I had gained from my accounting experience proved to be more misleading than helpful. For example, I did a quick reckoning when I knew my rent was going to be $250 a month, which is $3,000 a year. I estimated total annual expenses at $12,000. From my experience as an auditor, I knew that other fashion retailers worked on a gross profit margin of around 33% of sales at the time. So I figured I needed $36,000 a year in sales to cover the $12,000 of expenses, and that 1/3 of all sales over $36,000 would be profit. I reckoned that if we had sales of $60,000 a year, we would expect to make an annual net profit of around $8,000, which would be a good start and a reasonable living for us. However, this was all pie in the sky because most of my assumptions were wrong, and I did not allow for any of the unknowns of the ladies' wear business. I did not take into consideration that it was a seasonal business and that there are 4 seasons in a year. I did not understand that, whether I sold one piece of merchandise or not, in order to have a proper selection, I would have to put approximately $30,000 worth of merchandise into the store 4 times a year, which meant $120,000 worth of merchandise at retail every year. So even if we did have sales of $60,000 a year, we would be out of business in no time. We needed sales of at least $100,000 a year just to pay for the merchandise. That is just one of the many examples of how inexperienced we were. There was so much we didn't know. In the first 12 months we were in business, our sales were only $36,000, and we started digging ourselves into a deep hole of debt. Statistics show that only 7% of new startup businesses survive beyond the first 2 years. Put another way, 93% of all startups fail within the first 2 years. Considering who we were and our lack of experience, I am still amazed that we turned out to be one of that 7%. Looking back, there were a couple of factors that really helped us. First, most of our customers fell in love with Shirley, and they kept coming back to see her. And we were able to hire some staff that our customers related to, so sales kept increasing after our first year. Second, after our initial buying experiences with Title Dress and Michael London, our approach to our suppliers when we were buying was, we're 22 years old, we have this store, we've put everything we have into the business, and we're going to work very hard. We know nothing about this business and we need your help, please. We asked for help and we got help. This became our modus operandi. We allowed people to contribute to us, and I am proud to say that with that approach, in all the 46 years we were in business, no one ever tried to take advantage of us. In fact, people were amazingly generous to us. The following are a few examples that I still remember very clearly. The manufacturer's salesmen, for instance, were very supportive. They always came to visit, to check things out, to see how we were doing, and to bring us information about what was happening at other stores. They would tell us what was selling and what was not. It seemed that every one of them somehow adopted us. Mr. Stein, the owner of a company called Jacob Dress, was a great supporter. We had bought some dresses from him, and one Friday evening, not long after we opened the store, he came over to see us. He looked around for a while and then he said to me, "Max, my dresses are wrong for you. They're not young enough for the clientele you're obviously trying to attract. I'm going to drive my car up to the back door. I'll take back the dresses and send you a credit." Mr. Stein did not have to do that. I had bought his dresses, and at that stage they were my responsibility, but he did not want us to get hurt. There was also Mr. Phillips from Vanity Frocks. We were one of his customers, but I stopped buying from him because I owed him around $900 that was 6 months overdue, and I didn't have the money to pay him. It so happened that at the time Vanity Frocks had a very hot selling dress. So I went to Mr. Phillips with a check for $300 and told him I realized my account was overdue, but I needed 5 of his dresses. He gave me the 5 dresses, but then he said to me, "Max, you've owed me $900 for over 6 months. Obviously, you must be tight for money, and there must be other suppliers who are giving you a hard time. So take back your check and take the dresses. Pay me when you have the money." I took the dresses and my check and went back to the store. These are only a few examples of many of people who went above and beyond to help us. Our suppliers gave us credit, shipped to us, and we paid them whenever we could. However, the reality was that we were buying goods, but we were not selling enough to pay for them and cover our costs. As a result, we were getting ourselves deeper and deeper into debt.